Hi, I'm Heidi Brislin, and we are doing our final session of our book study. It's actually session 6. There's always one mistake on my slide, so I can prove to you all I'm human. So it's on this one today. We're going to be talking about chapters 11, which is assistive technology, and how to use that to teach literacy. And chapter 12 is kind of how to pull it all together and implement it. So here we go. All right, the slides are in the chat. I'm going to keep trying to pop that in there as people join. So you'll be happy to know there is no Padlet prompt today. Oh, there are 2 mistakes. Look at this. Anyway, so the landing page right here has all the information. It has all of the recordings, all the slide decks, and I'll just open it up here. It has all the recordings, all the slide decks, the clock hour number, the claim number, how many clock hours are available. And then if you go to the end, there's just a treasure trove of resources here. So yeah, so just bookmark that so you have it, because I think that'll really make a difference for you all as you look back on this and decide how you're going to incorporate in the activities in your lesson planning. Okay, PGAP forms. I looked through the PGAP and it, not PGAP, the professional growth plan forms, and it looks pretty easy, and there's an instructional video for how to do it. If you have questions, check that video, and then I would call OSPI because they're going to be able to answer your specific questions way better than I'm going to. So don't forget to do that for your time you spent doing your reading and some of your self-study on this. I want to remind you again of this quote, because again, it's kind of the mantra I use every day. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And I think with so many of the ways that we educate students with special needs, there's always ways of learning. There's so much research going on. There's ways of learning and doing things that we're always going to work on doing better once we know better. And then looking at shifting our mindset to where instead of teaching our special ed students to work, we're going to teach them to learn. We're going to really focus on having them do the job of learning and how important that is. All right. So chapter 11, using AT effectively to support literacy. And I love this little sticker gift that once you learn to read, you will forever be free. It's really the most important life skill you're ever going to teach your students. So it's worth the time and effort, and some kids get it right off the bat, and some kids it takes years and don't get it until high school, but it's never too late to start and never give up. I think that's what we've learned through the book. And then let's talk about assistive technology, what it includes, and the devices and services. And could you just let me know if you have an assistive tech? I'm just curious. In your district, do you have someone who's designated as your assistive tech support person? You can just pop it in the chat. I'm just curious kind of what that looks like for all of you. We've got yes, yes, awesome. Got someone who's kind of. Okay, so a couple things to, I just want to review what, I love seeing all these yeses. That is really, really awesome. So what it includes when you read IDEA, this is really what it talks about. AT devices include any item, piece of equipment, or product system, product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And that ranges from everything from a pencil grip to a wiggle cushion, all the way up to a power wheelchair, eye gaze devices, AAC switches, the universal tools that support writing, the word prediction, the speech to text. Those are all assistive technology devices and tools. And the AT services directly assist the child with disability in the selection, acquisition, and use of the assistive technology device. Awesome. I love how you have people coming in and doing this. For those of you who don't have an AT specialist, that's something, if you have a student and you're needing some help with, your special ed director can reach out to Jennifer Acuna, and we can get somebody out there to kind of help support you all. Because sometimes, I mean, you guys have, we all have kids with some very complex needs that stump us sometimes, and just another set of eyes for that. Another option is to do a tech assist through the Special Ed Tech Center. So those are a couple of the options to get additional help. And even if you have a person, you know, I sometimes do a tech assist with the Special Ed Tech Center myself, depending on what's going on. And I actually work there. So nice. We've got, good. I'm glad you have that support. That makes me really happy. Okay, so we're going to take a second, and I want you to look at this. I'm going to give you, about 2 minutes to look at this and see if you can figure out what it says. And if you think you've got some of it or all of it, you can type it in the chat, or timer will go off here in a second and you can unmute. All right, did anybody get that? Someone sees schedule. I'm going to stop the share for a minute because I went to go move your pictures somewhere different, and my slide deck is not where I want it. Okay, so what we've got is I see schedule. It's hard to understand the symbol meanings. Catch the bus. Okay. I see one that looks like I'm drowning. A lot of helping going on. um, all right, well, let's see what it really says. I feel like it's saying something is the same as something. All right, let's see what it says. So it says, does symbol supported text really help people who struggle to read? Is it easier to read when symbols accompany the text? Let's have a look. So even like just reading this, do you feel like it slows you down a little bit? Because I feel like my eyes bounce back and forth from the symbol to the word. So the symbols don't make you a better reader. So just again, just a reminder that the research doesn't support that symbolated text helps you become a better reader. It's great for things like a visual schedule. When students are learning to use AAC, if they're a symbol-based communicator with their AAC, that symbols are there to help them quickly find the word. But when you put it together in a paragraph, it really makes it really, really difficult. And Claire, you're right. It takes a lot of time to process. So it's not, and when you interact with text in the community, you're not going to see this. So anyway, we'll change a practice area for all of us, possibly. Okay, so here's what the research says. Decisions about AT must match the instructional goal or context and the user's needs, because evidence suggests that pairing symbols with words makes it more difficult to learn to read the words. Educators should avoid symbol-supported text for reading-related instructional goals. So there's lots of other places you can use it, but if you're looking at reading-related goals, the symbolated text is not going to improve anybody's reading. Okay. So again, looking at assistive technology, the team really needs to be looking at what are the instructional goals and context that they need to use those goals in, and what are the needs of our learner. And that is critical to successful implementation of AT to support literacy. All right. Any questions so far? All right. Let me share my sound because I know I didn't do that. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is a couple of videos. They're from the Special Ed Tech Center. This is Brenda Del Monte, and just some AT kind of tools in action to help support literacy. So here we go with this first one.
Is this how you're teaching yes and no in the classroom, where they have a yes and a no on a tray, and their complex body sometimes means they can't even see it, or at least they can't see where their hand is going, which requires hand over hand to even do yes and no, and even then you're at 50% accuracy? Let's debunk this. We don't want to have to need any technology, low tech or high tech, to accept or reject an option. I do that by using talking buttons.
No. Yes.
I place them where I want them to do the movement.
Yes. No.
They hear it, they experience the language, and then I can provide tactile feedback without the buttons, and then no buttons at all. They should be able to say yes and no in the bathtub. Parents want to know when the kid's coughing in the back, are you okay? Yes, keep going. No, pull over. We all are either yes people or no people. So I usually start with the one that they lean towards. If you have a no kiddo, I like to use no David. Every page the child has the opportunity to do the movement, hit the switch and say no, and tell him to stop doing whatever naughty thing that he's doing. It makes it super interactive. It makes it a shared reading experience, and you're teaching them a reliable and consistent way to say yes and no.
Okay. So as you can see, what Brenda is telling us is, she's using technology. These are little touch point switches. They have some at the ESD that you can certainly borrow and check out. You can also check them out from the Special Ed Tech Center. And they're really just a way to kind of help the student get the feedback that, yes, you moved your head this way, that's no. You moved your head this way, that's yes. And doing it during an engaging activity like shared reading really, makes it just so much more fun. And if you can have silly yes and no's, that makes it even more fun as well. Because teaching a yes no, whether it's aided with some type of switch that has a voice output that says yes or no, and an unaided yes no, you are going to really be able to eventually dive into like where they are with literacy and what they know and the choice making. And so this is just such an important thing for your students in looking at learning literacy and just being able to participate in, like Brenda said, areas where you may not have your AAC device. So if your student doesn't have a yes no, definitely get that on the IEP as a goal for the team. The whole team needs to work on it. Questions on that?
Is this how you're teaching yes and no in the
Okay, so here's another one, looking at some tools in action during shared reading. And I just really today wanted to give you lots of resources so you can think about, oh, okay, this is AT and it's not like, crazy high tech that I can work on really incorporating and building some literacy skills. So here we go with this one.
Let's see how we can increase literacy skills by using Little Penguin Gets the Hiccups. Right off the bat, you have ideas about how to get rid of hiccups. And I would take this opportunity to get kids out of chairs and move bodies and increase level of alertness. In the story, they decide that scaring the penguin is the best idea. So this is an opportunity for a student that uses switch access to count the whole class down. So they can't say boo until somebody does
1, 2, 3.
boo. Whenever I see a book like this where there's one word on the page, I'm so excited because now we have a chance to play with letters. Let's see what happens if we change the boo to a different letter. Maybe that will scare the hiccups out of them. If you have a Switch user, you can use a Switch adapted spinner for them to pick a letter that might change the word.
1, 2, 3.
Roo! He still has the hiccups. Let's try another letter. For students who may be using eye gaze, they can use the letter board by looking at a letter. This one? Let's see what happens when we change this one. Any kiddo who's giggling, has an inside voice and has already put these sounds together because it's made a potty word. Have fun with this. Let's see how we can increase literacy skills by using.
Okay. So thoughts about that? Are those some tools that you think you can, use with your students? And for those of you who aren't working with complex students, how are some ways that you might incorporate some of these activities as well? With your students who may not need to use switches. Go ahead and you can shout out or you can share in the chat. I do love Brenda's videos because they're easy to implement. They're not taking like a ton of tools. You're not having to figure out how to, for this one, how to like, hook the switch interface into the iPad. But just some really great tools there.
Let's see how
All right. So assistive tech support, things that are really important are obviously one of the most important things is communication. So looking at ways to make sure that everybody has a way to communicate and working with your assistive tech team to put some of those things together for them. And you really want it to be as robust as possible for your student. It really limits what you can model or what they can say if you just have a few icons on the page. And so sometimes you might have like 9 icons on the page for their, their AAC system. And all of a sudden they stop using it because the words that they want to use aren't there. Or the team stops modeling it because the words you want to model aren't there. Assistive tech support gives access to materials and productivity so that they can engage in the work of learning. And it gives access to reading and writing. There are so many wonderful reading and writing supports for all students. And so those are some things assistive tech support offers to support literacy. Supporting communication is, like I said, we talked about, it's required for literacy learning. And they need solutions they can use across multiple contexts with multiple partners for a variety of purposes. So if you have someone with an eye gaze device that they can use in the morning, but in the afternoon they're too tired and they need a different system, whether it's partner assisted scanning where you're going through their system and giving them some choices and they use their yes no for that. Or they're using switch scanning to do it in the afternoon. So it's really good for our AAC users to have lots of tools in their toolbox to pull out in different places. Does that make sense? All right. AT to support writing. The product may look superior when students select words or pictures from a word bank. I know I have certainly used those. I still sometimes use them as well. But the process of using a word bank to create sentences doesn't help students learn to generate their own ideas for writing. The only choices they have are the choices that we've given them in the word bank. And it doesn't resemble the process of the cognitive process of composing text. So, really like when you're using the word banks, think about kind of how you want to use them. And is there a way I can do something where, without using them or using them in a different method? One of my teachers, we talked about, having the class look at a picture and come up with their own words and creating their own word bank. And so, there's lots of ideas for ways to do that differently. All right, how many of you are familiar with the SAT framework? You give me like a thumbs up in the chat or a thumbs down. Oh, we've got a thumbs up, Allison. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and go through this for you. So it's one evidence-based approach to making informed decisions regarding assistive technology devices and services. So typically when I meet with a team, the first thing they want to jump into are what are the tools? These are the tools we need. So often, if you don't understand like what, have a good knowledge of the student, the environment, and the tasks that we want them to be able to do, we're often going to pick the wrong tools, or we might pick one tool when a couple of tools might be better. And so what Joy Zambala, which I'll open this link here in a second so you can see like all the resources for that. What they have done some research with is looking at the student. So you're going to start the team with, let's talk about the students. What are the things that they like? What are they not like? What language do they speak at home? What does their home situation look like? Do they have a diagnosis, or what is their qualifying category? A little bit about, look at their fine motor, their gross motor, their communication. Do we have any visual or hearing things? And so by going through that, you get a lot of really great information about the student. And so then you can look at, okay, what are the environments that the student's going to need to use assistive technology in? Is it going to be in their gen ed class? Is it going to be in PE? Is it going to be in their special ed classroom? And then looking at like what environments at home do they need to be able to access AT as well? Like, do they have homework? Do they like to read at home? Are they writing notes to grandma? Coming up with, what environment we want. And then we start looking at the tasks we want them to do. And so, I look at, communication and what do we want them to be able to do for writing and reading and math and leisure and specialists and, interacting with peers, so what are we looking at as far as tasks we want this child to be able to do? And these might be things that, I always like to kind of put on like my long-term umbrella, um, because then it's like, okay, what do we want them to do? What are our hopes and our dreams? And then what tools do we need? And what are we going to prioritize and work on like this month and this year? And so that's, and then you list out the tools. So let me open this link here. And so it's always under construction. It seems like there's always more to do. But it talks about, it'll give you scaffolds of how to gather data, how to select tools. So just a treasure trove of resources here. Oh, there's like a Nerdcast interview with Joy, so you can listen to her as well. So Allison says she learned about it at a training she attended with a teacher who teaches the medically fragile students. Nice. So it is just a really, really student-centered way to look at assistive technology needs. And if you're not using them in your district, bring this back and maybe, on one of your professional learning community days or your early release days, you can dive into it with some of your team members. So it's just, like I said, a really great way to kind of feature match and make sure you get the right things for your student and have a plan for trying them. And then we talked about this as well, is that teams must also remember that identifying the appropriate AT devices is just one step in a process that almost always involves AT services to ensure that the student can use the device and is maintained in good working order. So your AT specialist might be kind of like, because most of us don't have enough time to do everything that we need to do for all the students that we support. So they might kind of help you come up with the device, do some of that immediate kind of training. And then the IEP team, does more and more of that training. And then the AT specialists, and my teams contact me when they need things. And then I come back and, oh, it's not working. Let's try this different tool and those kind of things. So any questions on that? Do you feel like you have a slightly better understanding of the SET process? Got a thumbs up. It's like a flyby. Yeah. So again, so there's resources there to help you kind of dig in a little bit more. Awesome. Okay. So what resources does SETC have? I'm going to throw those in there, and a lot of the resources in the switch kits we have at the Olympic ESD if your district doesn't have some of them. So you can reach out to Jennifer and she'll send you the library list. I know your special ed directors have it too. So you can check out literacy kits that have a lot of different tools to work on teaching some literacy, some of all the parts of, literacy learning that we've been learning about. There are switch kits. And then we're going to dive into this a little bit later in the presentation, but they've put together this fantastic, Barb Lark, I don't know if any of you know her or not, she's retired from working at SETC, has put together this comprehensive literacy for all book collection. And it is just a treasure trove of material.
The Special Education Technology Center has a new...
Okay, so that's a little bit about AT. It's so much bigger than those few slides talked about, but it's just to know it's really, really important that you're looking at low tech, mid tech, high tech when you're teaching literacy to your students. Okay, now how are we going to do this? We're going to organize and deliver effective instruction. Okay, this is the thing I want you to remember, because this book has a lot of ideas, a lot of resources, a lot of tools, and it can be overwhelming to think about how am I going to implement all these things in my practice and with my team and get my staff trained to do it. And really, what the authors say is comprehensive instruction delivered imperfectly is better than perfect instruction in just one area. And it certainly is better than no instruction at all. So a couple of years ago, I was at a course, a 3-day course with Karen Erickson, and they had done some research on growth students had when comprehensive instruction was offered every day for a chunk of the day. So they kind of recommend about 3 hours. I find most of my teachers can maybe get 30 minutes to an hour. But they saw a ton of growth. And then the next year they have a different teacher and there's no instruction at all. And what you see is the kids lose everything they gained. And then they might get a teacher who's, just learning, but trying some things, and you'll start to see that improvement. And so the research says these skills make a difference in teaching students to read and write. Our students who are at that emergent level, that it just makes they make really great progress when you meet them where they are and teach them how to, really explicitly teach them how all the processes of eventually becoming a conventional reader and writer. Okay, questions on that? Everybody's so quiet today. It must be like everybody's just kind of hanging on till the very end. All right, so this is a little bit about the Comprehensive Literacy for All book collection. And this is a great book. If you don't have this book in your library, it's Let's Go Play. And Sari's going to explain a little bit about it in the video and talk a little bit about the book collection.
We are loving this book by Shelby McCarthy called Let's Go Play. It shows kids using all sorts of AT tools to play. It has everything you'd want for a shared reading experience. Predictable phrases, rhyming, all around an assistive tech tools theme your kids can relate to. It's written by a mom, an SLP, who has a daughter with special needs. You can visit her Etsy site to buy the book and check out her Instagram, Let's Go Play Inclusion, where she posts all sorts of tips for inclusion and play and other ideas. If you're wondering where to start with this book, the Special Ed Tech Center's got you covered. We have a document on our website with activity ideas for each time you read the book, like commenting during shared reading, identifying the tools and what the tools are used for. and doing a predictable chart writing activity. Wheelchair is a cool tool. Then you can learn how to make your own adaptive tools to use in your class or home. You'll find this on the Special Education Technology Center's website in Technology Resources. Then you'll go to Communication, AAC, and Literacy, where you'll find the Comprehensive Literacy for All online book collection, with this book and many more.
Another fun thing about this book, Let's Go Play, is you can find a YouTube read aloud done by a paraeducator in an elementary school. Book does a great job showing the tools and then naming them in a play context. This read aloud would be great for modeling core vocabulary and then modeling navigation to the category of the assistive tech tool on your student or your child's communication system. We hope you get a chance to check out Let's Go Play and then go have some fun.
Does anybody have that book? Has anybody gotten it yet or read it at all? Yeah, it's a very sweet book. It's just a really good book. So definitely worth adding to your Etsy wish list. It is very fun. Yeah.
We are loving.
So what I want you to do, because I can talk about the Comprehensive Literacy for All book collection, but I think you're really going to learn how to use it by taking some time to explore the book collection. So here's the link on the slide, and I can pop that in the chat as well. Okay, so there's a quick tutorial if you need to kind of know how to use it. And then if you want to suggest a book for the book collection, you can do that as well. So they're kind of divided into pre-K, primary, intermediate, and secondary. And then also there are all of these strategies. If you're wanting to work on alphabet knowledge, you can click there, and some books that work on alphabet knowledge are there. If you use Clicker in your district, there's Clicker sets for some of the books. If you're working on comparisons, comprehension, core vocabulary, all of these areas. So we talked about yes, no. So let's click on yes, no, and just see what books come up in that section. Maybe. There we go. So, and then you can click on one of these days. So here's A Day with No Words, which is another great book if you don't have. So it does have some clicker sets. It's on Set BC. It's a collaborate. We did a collaboration with SETC and the Special Ed Tech group in British Columbia. But if you cruise through here, there is an activity planning link, and that takes you to this planning stage where you have your whole lesson plan done. So what I'd like to do is give you 4 minutes to just kind of find a book quick, open it up, look through the lesson guide, and tell me what you think. So I'm going to start the timer here. Okay, so what did you guys think? Did you find it? What books did you find? Did you find a book to, and you can like unmute or feel free to pop in the chat. Did you find a book that you're interested in? something that would be helpful? Do you feel like it would be a tool that would be useful for you? All right. Well, I hope you had some time to dig in there. And there are tons, Faith, there are tons of book supports, and it's a great resource. Yeah. Um, the Elephant and Piggy books, helping your students really enjoy using Clicker. Awesome. Um, Are You Scared, Darth Vader? What a great book. Um, Bad Case of the Stripes. I like that one. Um, Amazing. Head Full of Birds. Yeah, so lots of great things. You can just kind of like, work on all the elements of comprehensive literacy, and you have like your lesson plan done. You could just pick a different book. Um, for that, Caps for Sale is my favorite book, I have to say. Um, all right. So one of the things I love to do with students is like help them make up stories or write alternative endings to stories. So one of the um, things I did with a student was we did a shared reading activity with a Big Bad Wolf, Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. And so he had like a comment on his AAC device where he would comment about the wolf. And then we would, go through the book. And so then we went through and we used partner assisted scanning to pick different characters. So instead of a wolf, it was a lobster, and instead of a pig, it was a frog. And so this is a way that Brenda uses some tools to make up stories. And this can be, if you check out the literacy kit, it has this in a light tech version with paper. But this is, she uses Go Talk Now on the iPad to create some literacy pages. But think about how you could use this with all kids. I mean, even if you don't have like a fancy picture for it, you could just use sticky notes and stick drawings as well. So let's watch this.
Make up stories. Once upon a time, there was a... Who should be in our story?
Who? Who was in the story?
It can be something as simple as it a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, or an animal. Or if you're on a higher level communication system with more vocabulary, you can point out that when I say who, you go people. Who is in your story?
Little girl.
Make sure that there's more than one character in your story so that later you can have dialogue.
Animal. An animal.
Oh, what animal's in your story?
Dog. Bark like a dog.
All right, once upon a time there was a girl and her dog. Wait a minute, once upon a time, I need to know when. So you can go to your page that has a when.
I have a question.
Or if you're using low-tech or pictures, then you might need a picture of
When did the story take place?
a day or a night or a sun or a moon to learn about when something happens. You can also do where. Where were they? It could be as simple as inside, outside, home or school, or again, on a higher level system, when I say where, you go places and get specific about where the story is happening. The great thing about doing this is that there is no right or wrong answers. When kids know there are no right or wrong answers, they explore their system. You'll find out that they actually choose things that they know the most about. So often kids' characters in stories eat their favorite foods, or the characters in the stories go outside, which is your child's favorite place to play. It's great because you're teaching them how to find vocabulary that's important to them. Continue on through the elements of a story. Who, what, when, where, why, how. When you get to what happened in this story, you can do a couple of things. You can either go to a yes-no system where you give them opportunities to say, did they fall? Did they get lost? Did they make something? Did they break something? Or you can have them find their green words, or have them choose an action word and tell the story from there. Be sure to include all the elements of a story so that you're teaching not only elements of a personal narrative or a made-up story, but you're hitting all kinds of words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and feelings. Give it a try.
I'm going to pause this one. All right. How many of you do things where you make up stories with your students? I think it's so much fun. We've been doing a lot of this, and then creating book creator books with like what they've written. And that's just been a ton of fun for our students. So definitely something if you're not doing in a way that there are no right or wrong answers, because I think so many students are afraid to give information because the answer might be wrong. And if you can do it in this way, like Brenda shows, and there are no right and wrong answers, I find sometimes I'll even, get my AAC out for my speaking students to kind of like, oh, let's go to this category. Is there something here that you'd like to use just to kind of help them begin to put the words together and think about things there? This is another one when you can start asking some questions and kind of figure out like, what do they know? But this shouldn't be where we start. In comprehensive literacy for all, I think this is where we need to work up to, because we question these kids to death, we test them to death. But once they've kind of got some of the strategies in place, you can start asking them questions.
One of my favorite things to do is to have kids tell a pretend story. I typically use a question page where I can say,
Who was in the story?
who is in the story, and they can scan or point to who's in their story. I usually have them pick 2 characters so there can be conversation and interaction.
Now, on my page that I've done like that, I also have just person or child, so you can use it, so you're respecting some like, some different non-binary genders and stuff. And so when you're looking at these, think about a way that you can make it inclusive to everybody. But that's one of the things I did on ours is we just put child or adult or person. So it wasn't necessarily a boy or a girl.
Where can be as simple as inside and outside. You can add home, school, park, or something different. When? Sometimes daytime and nighttime is sufficient. If they're going to learn a few words each week and a total of 20 or 30 words a year, I'm not sure we need a Tuesday on this one. What happened is pretty open-ended.
What happened?
And I may begin to ask yes/no questions here. How do they feel?
Let me tell you how they feel.
Helps me guide them so that if they tell me that they are sad, I can begin to give them options of what may have happened to make them sad. I always give them the opportunity to ask for a yes/no option if any of these are difficult for them. Let's begin asking and answering questions in the simplest form.
If you check out the literacy kit, one of the things that you get is the link. If you have Go Talk Now on your iPad, there's a QR code and it will actually upload all those activities. And there's also paper versions. And so you have them so you can kind of get it and use the work that's already been done at the Special Ed Tech Center to be able to save you some time in developing some of these things. All right. So quick shout out. How could you use the strategies from these videos with your students regardless of their physical and communication abilities? All right, we've got when is like, I love the create a story. I do too. It's so much fun. And publish that story if they create it. It's really, really fun. Um, well, I hope you've found some things in here that you can definitely use. The errorless choices Beth talks about, I love those too. And I think just one thing to remember is it's like everyone in the student's life is part of the literacy team. It's not just the teacher or the SLP. This is really something that the whole team, OT, PT, the vision specialists, everybody can, needs to be working on together. And Claire has a comment. It looks like a good way for verbal kids to get involved in creating stories. Yeah, it's a really great way for that. Remember the 4 questions we talked about at the beginning of the book study, to where you decide if we're going to be going to conventional interventions or emergent interventions. And those questions are identifying the letters of the alphabet most of the time, engage in and interact during shared reading, have a means of communication, and understand that print has meaning. So just a quick reminder on that. Here's the Literacy Bill of Rights, if you want to print that out and put it up in your classroom. And then again, we talked about the importance of teaching literacy and it being the most functional skill that students can acquire. And the thing to know is it opens up jobs. If you have literacy skills, your employment opportunities are so much broader. You have autonomous communication if you know those letters of the alphabet. It works on brain development, and it will make it easier for your students to learn any other skills and gives them the power to seek support and ask for help. So it's really worth figuring out how to make some time for this, because it's really the most important thing you can be doing with your students. All right, and I just wanted to share something we've got going on next year at SETSI, and I'm hoping some of you will join us. Sarah Kinsella and I will be doing a monthly Comprehensive Literacy for All professional learning circle, and it'll meet the 3rd Wednesday of the month from 3:45 to 4:45. And we will be doing a deep dive into the work in the book Comprehensive Literacy for All, looking at some of Jane Farrell's amazing resources. And I will be coming back from a week of working with Karen Erickson and David Koppenhaver. So we're going to have lots of great tools and strategies, and you can continue to work on developing your skills in teaching all students to read and write. And make sure you fill out the course evaluation. If there are other things that you'd like to see, I'm going to stop the recording. Let me know, and we can look at if we need to do something different next year.